In the sacred and majestic village of Lemwana, life pulsed with both reverence and fear. Nestled along the banks of the Lemwana River, the villagers lived in awe of its beauty and respect for its dangers. The river was their lifeblood, providing fish to feed their families, water to nourish their crops, and tales of ancient spirits. But it was also treacherous, its currents hiding dark secrets, and its depths were home to beings far older than time itself. Mami Wata, the water spirit, ruled the river with a deadly charm. She was beautiful, yes, but also dangerous. Her seductive allure lured men with promises of wealth and power, while she offered women fertility and love. But those who sought her out were often never seen again, lost to the river's depths or claimed by her mysterious power. Yet, despite the elders' warnings, the youth of Lemwana scoffed at the tales, dismissing them as ghost stories meant to frighten children. But as the river surged with restless energy, the truth of those tales was far closer than they realized. Mami Wata had two daughters, twins, Kola and Keto, born of the river's depths and shrouded in mystery. Though they shared a mother, they were as different as the river's calm and its storms. Kola was the gentler twin, her heart drawn to the humans of Lemwana. She admired their simple lives, the laughter of their children, and the way they decorated the riverbanks with offerings, stones, beads, and trinkets they no longer needed. Kola would slip to the shore in secret, collecting the discarded treasures, which she used to craft delicate art, hidden deep within the caves beneath the river. She adored the children, often watching them from the shadows, her songs echoing in the breeze, soothing both the creatures of the water and those on land. But her fascination with the humans and the land made her reckless. She knew the dangers but couldn't resist the pull to the shore. Keto, on the other hand, hated the humans with a deep, burning resentment. She viewed them as invaders, killers of her kin and polluters of the sacred river. While Kola sang in the shadows, Keto lurked beneath the water, her eyes glowing like coals in the dark. She was always waiting, watching the boats and fishermen, wishing to drag them into the depths and watch their terror as they drowned. But Keto had a secret, a twisted, forbidden fascination with one of the fishermen, Obio. She had watched him from the river's depths, her thoughts filled with both hatred and an unspoken longing. She imagined drowning him, watching the life drain from his eyes, but there were moments when she saw him differently, his strength, his determination. There were times when it felt less like hatred and more like a twisted form of love. She didn't know what it was, but it consumed her thoughts. The time of the new moon was nearing, and with it came the Lao, a sacred ritual that marked a mermaid's transition into adulthood. For 3 weeks, young mermaids endured excruciating pain as their golden scales shed from their bodies, leaving raw, tender skin beneath. The healer, Yan, would collect the scales to make a balm that healed wounds, restored balance, and soothed pain. But the scales, when in human hands, could be a powerful weapon, allowing them to force a mermaid into granting wishes or causing harm. Kola was terrified of the Lao. The transformation was excruciating, and once it was over, she would have to embrace the weight of her responsibilities as a guardian of the river. But she knew it was inevitable. Still, she clung to the land and the memories of her carefree childhood. Keto, on the other hand, had no fear of the ritual. She saw it as a means to become stronger, to claim her rightful place as the ruler of the river. She had no interest in humans or their world, and she had no desire to endure the ritual with her sister. Mami Wata had warned them both. "You must undergo the Lao in the sacred grotto," she said. "Endure the pain, for it is the only way to gain the power of the river and protect it." But as the night of the ritual drew near, Keto convinced Kola to go to the shore one last time, before the transformation took hold of them both. "We have time," Keto said, her voice sweet as she coaxed her sister. "Let us see the land one more time, before we are bound to the grotto." Kola hesitated, but the pull of the shore, of the life she was about to lose, was too strong. She agreed, and the two of them swam to the river's edge, unnoticed by the villagers who were busy preparing for the ritual. As they neared the shore, Kola's laughter rang out, her golden tail flashing in the dimming light. She swam closer to the surface, her mind distracted by the beauty of the world above the water. Keto watched, her heart dark with malice. She had been planning this for weeks. She had seen Obio, the fisherman who haunted her thoughts, preparing his nets. And now, it was time to act. She nudged Kola upward, pretending it was playful. Go ahead, sister. Play with the humans one last time. Kola was hit with a strong surge of pain and struck her head on the bottom of the boat. Obio felt his net grow heavier. He stilled his breath, glancing nervously at the riverbank to ensure no one was watching. As he hauled the net into his boat, his heart pounded. Something golden shimmered beneath the tangled ropes. When he pulled it free, he froze. A mermaid, beautiful, ethereal, unwounded. Without hesitation, Obio pulled in his net, his heart racing with excitement and disbelief. He could hardly believe his luck. Kola, still unaware of the danger, struggled weakly. Obio covered her quickly, not wanting to attract attention from the other villagers. He finished pulling all his nets in, and rowed his boat quietly to shore, eager to hide his prize. Keto, her eyes gleaming with cold satisfaction, watched from the depths, a twisted smile curling her lips. She had no intention of rescuing her sister. Kola's capture was the perfect opportunity for Keto to take control of the river and its power. Goodbye, sister, Keto whispered to herself as she descended back into the dark waters, leaving Kola to her fate. Once on shore, Obio hid Kola in his boat, covered with the net. He didn't want anyone to see her. He knew she was precious, more than just a beautiful creature, she could bring him wealth beyond measure. Once on shore, Obio continued to tend to his fishing nets, making sure Kola was properly covered. He hid in the bush until everyone left the river for the day, telling himself it was for her safety. But deep down, he knew the truth, he intended to exploit her powers. As night fell, Obio returned to the boat, collected Kola, and ran to an old, run-down hut that used to belong to his parents. He hadn't expected to see what he found. When he uncovered the net, he saw the bloody mess of Kola's tail, her scales had fallen away, and the raw, sensitive flesh beneath was exposed. Her tail was gone, replaced by human legs. The sight shocked Obio, and he knew no one would believe his tale. He hurriedly buried the evidence in the old hut, locking it away beneath the floorboards, his heart pounding with fear and exhilaration. He locked her inside, covering the windows and doors to keep her hidden. He told himself it was for her safety, but deep down, he knew the riches her scales could bring. Returning home, deep in thought, he held one of her scales to figure out what to do about the mermaid. When Kola awoke, unaware of her current circumstances, she tried to scream, but her voice was gone, replaced by a dry rasp. Crawling to the edge of the hut, she clawed at the walls, weak and disoriented. As she realized she was not the same, she blacked out again. The transformation was complete. Kola, now human, lay unconscious on the floor. Her body would reflect the age of 16, delicate and beautiful. As soon as Obio stepped into the hut, his eyes fell upon Kola, who was lying on the floor. He couldn't help but notice the stunning beauty before him. Kola's naked body was a breathtaking embodiment of African beauty, with a rich, dark skin tone that had a warm, golden undertone. Her full, perfectly round bust and narrow waist created a beautiful display of proportion, accentuating her curves in a way that seemed almost sculpted. Her full hips and thighs were equally impressive. Her facial features were equally striking, with high cheekbones that added to the delicate balance of her face, and a small nose and full lips. Framing her face were beautiful waist-length locks, which cascaded down her back like a waterfall of dark silk. The overall effect was one of serene beauty, as if color had been carved from the very essence of Africa itself. Mami Wata, feeling the severed bond with her daughter, returned to the river with fury in her heart. The river surged violently, its waters thrashing against the banks, as if infused with an angry spirit. The villagers watched in fear, seeing the signs of Mami Wata's wrath. Fish died by the hundreds, the river turned dark, and crops began to wither. The village was in turmoil. Mami Wata knew that Keto had betrayed her sister, and she could feel the greed and envy that had filled her daughter's heart. She sent her guards to search for color, but the mermaid was nowhere to be found. Keto, now alone in the river, smirked. She had no intention of returning to her mother. She had claimed the river for herself. She could feel the change in her own power, the transformation that came with the law. She was no longer the innocent creature of the past. She was something darker, something that would rule the waters. Keto's hatred for color went beyond mere jealousy, it was a primal, animalistic hunger. She had always envied her sister's beauty, her light, her warmth. But now, with the river's power pulsing through her veins, Keto felt an insatiable need to swallow it all, to steal her sister's essence and claim the river for herself. Her fingers twitched, aching to reach out and crush Color's soul. Obio was not without guilt, but he knew the potential of the mermaid he had captured. He returned his hut late that night and found Color, no longer a mermaid, but a young woman, her beauty overwhelming. He couldn't resist her. As he carefully bathed her, his hands trembling with anticipation, he whispered to himself, "You are mine now." But as the words left his lips, he felt a chill that froze his blood. Color's breathing had stopped for a moment. The eerie silence in the hut was broken only by the wind outside, yet it carried with it the promise of something worse. He could feel it too, the river's rage. He covered her body with a cloth, and placed her in a bed, locking the hut to keep her hidden. As the days passed, Obio began to feel the pressure of his decision. He gave his wife, Amora, one of Color's scales and instructed her to go into the city to sell it. He lied to her, telling her that he had found the scale in his nets. But Amora, unaware of her husband's true intentions, did as he asked, unaware of the danger Color posed. Lemwana River, once a source of life, became a symbol of devastation. Local wildlife suffered as birds fell from the sky and animals fled from contaminated habitats. Some villagers along the riverbank started to evacuate, fearing for their safety. News of the outbreak reached neighboring villages, and Lemwana's people were blocked and some killed to keep them from entering other villages because they believed they were cursed. Lemwana began to crumble as fears escalated. With the situation worsening, protests erupted as villagers demanded action from their king. The next morning, Amora returned from the bustling city market, her face a mixture of unease and excitement. In her hand, she clutched a small pouch heavy with coins, more wealth than she and Obio had ever seen. But she wasn't alone. An elder from a neighboring village had accompanied her, his keen eyes betraying an insatiable curiosity. The elder's name was Joho, a man steeped in ancient knowledge and shrouded in an air of authority. His wrinkled hands gripped a staff adorned with carvings of serpents and river spirits, and his presence alone was enough to send shivers down the spines of the villagers. He was known for his obsession with the mystical and his ruthless pursuit of power. Amora approached Obio as he walked near the hut. "Obio," she called softly, glancing nervously at Joho. "This man, he knows about the scale. He says it's powerful, more powerful than I ever imagined." Obio's heart pounded in his chest. He forced a calm expression, but the tension in his shoulders betrayed him. "What does he want?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. Joho stepped forward, his sharp eyes studying Obio intently. "The scale you found is no ordinary trinket," he said, his voice smooth and commanding. "It is a gift from the river, imbued with the magic of Mami Wata herself. Such a thing is rare, and dangerous in the wrong hands. Obio shifted uncomfortably. I found it in my net, he lied. It must have come from a fish. Johor's gaze darkened, his lips curling into a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. Do not insult my intelligence, fisherman. A scale like this does not simply appear. Tell me the truth. Where did you get it? Amora looked between the two men, confusion and fear etched on her face. Obio, what is he talking about? What's going on? Obio's mind raced. He couldn't reveal the truth, not about color, not about the hurt, and certainly not about the power he was now harboring. It's nothing, he said quickly, avoiding Amora's gaze. Just a lucky find. That's all. Johor stepped closer, his staff tapping against the ground with each deliberate step. Do not underestimate me, boy, he said coldly. I have studied the river's magic my entire life. I know what this scale can do. And I know there are more where this came from. Obio's breath caught in his throat. More. The elder's smile widened. A single scale can command the river's power, heal wounds, or bring destruction. But an entire mermaid, that would be a treasure beyond imagination. If you have more scales, or know where to find the creature they came from, tell me now, and we can share in the wealth and power it will bring. Obio's stomach churned. He could feel the weight of his guilt pressing down on him, but the promise of wealth and power was intoxicating. Still, he knew Johor was not to be trusted. The elder's ambition was clear, and Obio feared what might happen if Kola's existence were revealed. I don't know what you're talking about, Obio said firmly, stepping back. I only found the one scale. Johor's expression darkened, his patience wearing thin. Do not play games with me, fisherman. If you know something, speak now. If you are lying, he trailed off, his tone laced with menace. Amora placed a hand on Obio's arm, her eyes pleading. Obio, if there's something you're not telling me, you need to say it. This isn't just about us anymore. Obio swallowed hard, his mind racing for a way out. I've told you everything I know, he insisted, meeting Johor's gaze. Now, if you don't mind, I have work to do. Johor's eyes lingered on Obio for a moment longer before he turned to Amora. The scale is valuable, yes, but it is also a curse, he warned. If you or your husband are hiding something, it will not remain hidden for long. The river has a way of reclaiming what is hers. With that, Johor turned and walked away, his staff clicking against the ground as he disappeared into the distance. Amora stared at Obio, her expression a mixture of confusion and suspicion. What did he mean, Obio? Are we in danger? Obio forced a weak smile, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Don't worry about him, he said. He's just an old man looking for trouble. We're fine. But as Amora walked away, Obio's thoughts turned to Kola, still hidden in the hut. The elder's words echoed in his mind, the river has a way of reclaiming what is hers. Unbeknownst to them, Johor had no intention of letting the matter rest. That night, he would return to the riverbank, determined to uncover the truth and claim the power he so desperately sought. Johor returned to the village that night under the cover of darkness, his sharp eyes scanning the riverbank for any sign of what Obio might be hiding. The elder had spent years studying the legends of Mami Wata, and he was certain that the fisherman's story of finding the scale was a lie. A single scale of such purity and power could only come from a mermaid. As he crept toward the river, the air grew heavy with an unnatural stillness. The once vibrant waters of the Lemwana river were now dark and sluggish, as if poisoned by the wrath of the goddess who ruled them. Johor paused, gripping his staff tightly. He knew he was walking a dangerous path, but the promise of power was worth the risk. He began to chant under his breath, invoking the spirits of the river. The carvings on his staff glowed faintly, the serpent seeming to writhe as his words grew louder. He called out to Mami Wata, offering his loyalty and begging for a sign. The river's surface rippled, and a soft, haunting voice echoed from the depths. "Why do you summon me, mortal?" Johor's heart leapt in his chest. He fell to his knees, bowing low. "Great Mami Wata, I seek your wisdom and your blessing. I have discovered a scale, a fragment of your divine power. I wish to serve you, to carry out your will." The voice grew sharper, colder. "You lie." Johor froze, his body trembling. I do not, Great One. I only wish to honor you." The river surged violently, and from its depths rose a towering figure cloaked in shimmering water. Mami Wata's eyes burned with fury, her presence overwhelming. "You seek not to serve me, but to steal from me," she hissed. "You desire power that is not yours to wield." Johor's breath caught in his throat. He tried to speak, but the words would not come. Mami Wata stepped closer, her voice a low growl. "You have meddled in matters beyond your understanding. But you are not the only one. There is another, one who has taken what is mine." "Where is my daughter?" Johor's eyes widened. "Your daughter?" The goddess leaned closer, her gaze piercing. "Do not play the fool. You know more than you claim. The scale you hold belongs to Kola, my child. Tell me where she is, or you will face my wrath." Johor hesitated, his mind racing. He had no idea that the scale came from Mami Wata's daughter, but the revelation only fueled his ambition. If he could capture the mermaid and offer her to the goddess, perhaps he could gain her favor and the power he craved. "I will find her," he said, his voice trembling. "I will bring her to you." Mami Wata's eyes narrowed. "Do not fail me, mortal. If you harm her, your soul will be mine." With that, she vanished into the river, leaving Johor alone on the bank. He stood, his legs shaking, and turned his gaze toward the village. If Obio was hiding Mami Wata's daughter, he would stop at nothing to find her. Obio sat cross-legged on the floor of his mother's village hut, his children playing at his feet. Their laughter should have comforted him, but it didn't. His mind was elsewhere, on the secret hidden deep in the woods. Kola. The mermaid. The source of the shimmering golden scale that had brought Johor to his door. Amora moved with practiced grace, humming softly as she stirred the pot over the fire. The smell of roasted spices filled the air, but it couldn't mask the tension crackling like a storm about to break. Obio's smile, forced and thin, faltered every time Amora wasn't looking. Then, a sharp knock at the door. Obio stiffened. His children froze mid-play, their laughter dying in their throats. Amora turned from the fire, a frown creasing her brow. "Who could that be at this hour?" she asked. Obio rose slowly, his legs heavy as lead. He hesitated at the door, swallowing hard before pulling it open. There stood Johor, his presence as sharp as the staff he carried. His expression was grim, his eyes cutting into Obio like blades. "Elder Johor," Obio greeted with forced calm. "What brings you back so soon?" "You know why," Johor said flatly, stepping inside without invitation. He looked around the room, his sharp gaze taking in every corner, every shadow. "You're hiding something, Obio. The scale you showed me, it's no ordinary thing. And I think you know exactly where it came from." Amora turned from the fire, her face a mask of confusion and concern. "Elder, my husband has told you all he knows. He found it in his fishing net. What more could you want?" Johor's eyes never left Obio. "The truth." Obio felt his heart hammering against his ribs. He struggled to keep his voice steady. "I've already told you everything. The scale was tangled in my net. That's all there is to it." "Liar," Johor spat, slamming his staff against the wooden floor. The sound echoed through the small hut, making Obio's youngest child whimper. "Do you think I don't recognize power when I see it? That scale, Its magic is ancient, dangerous. If you've brought something unnatural into this village, it will be on your head. Before Obio could answer, there was another knock at the door. It was softer this time, but it carried a weight that made the air in the room seem heavier. Obio froze, his breath caught in his throat. Slowly, he turned to the door, dread pulling in his stomach. When he opened it, a woman stood before him. She was breathtakingly beautiful, her dark skin glowing faintly in the dim light, her eyes sharp and unnervingly intense. She wasn't alone, two tall men flanked her, their expressions cold, their weapons gleaming in the moonlight. "Forgive the intrusion," the woman said, her voice smooth and melodic, yet carrying an edge that made Obio's skin crawl. "We are travelers. The night is cold, and we seek shelter." Amora stepped forward, wiping her hands on her apron. "Travelers? At this hour?" The woman smiled faintly. "Yes. We've been on the road for some time and saw the light from your home. We hoped you might grant us a place to rest." Amora hesitated, glancing at Obio. Her husband's face was pale, his lips pressed into a tight line. Joho, still standing in the center of the room, narrowed his eyes at the newcomers. "And where do you travel from?" he asked, his tone laced with suspicion. "Far," the woman replied cryptically. Her gaze shifted, landing on Obio. Her nostrils flared almost imperceptibly, and a flicker of recognition passed through her eyes. Obio's blood turned to ice. She knew. Amora, oblivious to the tension, forced a polite smile. "We don't have much space, but if you're willing to pay a small fee, you're welcome to stay the night." The woman's smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You are most generous." She stepped inside without waiting for further invitation, her guards following silently. As she moved into the room, the air seemed to grow colder. She glanced around, her movement slow and deliberate, like a predator surveying its prey. Her eyes lingered on Obio, and he felt as though she could see straight through him, down to the secret he was desperately trying to protect. Joho, clearly unsettled, turned back to Obio. "This changes nothing," he said, his voice low and firm. "You will tell me the truth about the scale. Now." Obio opened his mouth, but the woman spoke first, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "A scale, you say?" She tilted her head, her expression one of polite curiosity. "What sort of scale?" "That's none of your concern, wanderer," Joho snapped, his irritation flaring. The woman's smile faded, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Perhaps it is," she said softly, her words carrying an unspoken threat. Obio felt the walls closing in around him. The woman's presence was suffocating, her every movement a reminder of the danger she represented. She knew. She had to know. But she said nothing further, only settling herself on the floor as if she truly were just a weary traveler. Her guards stood like statues, their eyes fixed on Obio. As the fire crackled and the room fell into an uneasy silence, Obio's mind raced. The woman's gaze lingered on him, heavy and unrelenting. And though she didn't speak it aloud, Obio could feel the accusation in her eyes. As the night stretched on, the tension in the room softened ever so slightly as Amora served bowls of steaming stew. The woman, Mami Wata, though none in the room knew her true identity, accepted hers with a gracious nod, her movements elegant and deliberate. Her two guards settled in near the door, their imposing forms relaxed yet watchful, like predators waiting for the right moment to strike. Even Joho, begrudgingly, took a seat at the table, though his sharp eyes never left Obio. The elder sipped his stew slowly, each glance at Obio a silent demand for answers. Obio forced himself to eat, each bite like swallowing rocks. His children, oblivious to the undercurrent of dread, laughed and played quietly on the floor, their innocence a stark contrast to the storm brewing in the room. "I must say," the woman said suddenly, her voice smooth and deceptively warm, this is the finest meal I've had in weeks. Your wife is a talented cook. Amora smiled, a hint of pride lighting her features. Thank you. It's just a simple stew. The woman's gaze flicked to Obio, her smile lingering. You are fortunate to have such a home, such a family. Obio's hand tightened around his spoon. He forced a smile, nodding politely. We do our best. As the meal came to an end, Joho leaned back, his gaze boring into Obio. I'll take my leave now, he said, though his tone made it clear he had no intention of dropping the matter. But this is far from over, Obio. I'll return in the morning. Obio seized the opportunity, nodding quickly. I'll be heading to the river at dawn, he said. You're welcome to accompany me. I can show you exactly where I found the scale. Joho hesitated, suspicion warring with curiosity. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Very well. Amora, ever the gracious host, turned to their new guest. You may stay the night here, if you wish, she offered. We don't have much, but we make room. A small fee will do, to help us get by. Mami Wata inclined her head, her expression serene. You are most kind. We'll gladly pay for your hospitality. The children were ushered to bed, their laughter fading into the quiet of the night. The guards stretched out near the door, their weapons close at hand, while the woman settled herself gracefully on the mat Amora had laid out for her. As Obio locked the door for the night, his heart pounded in his chest. He could feel her eyes on him, though he didn't dare meet her gaze. When he finally lay down beside Amora, the silence of the room was deafening. His wife's soft breathing should have been a comfort, but instead, it only amplified the turmoil within him. He could still feel her presence, Mami Wata. The way her eyes lingered on him, the way her words seemed to drip with hidden meaning. And beneath it all, he could feel the weight of her unspoken question, hanging in the air like a blade poised to strike. The firelight flickered one last time before dying out, plunging the room into darkness. The only sound was the faint rustle of the wind outside. And in the shadows, Mami Wata closed her eyes, her senses sharpening. The scent of her daughter clung to Obio like a second skin, faint but unmistakable. Her lips curved into a small, knowing smile. Morning would come soon enough. If you like this story and would like to see what happens next, please comment, like and share. Until next time, bye.